right, so like you asked, today we're doing a deep dive into this whole shots fired thing at Trump's golf course. And, well, let me tell you, the more we looked into it, the weirder it got.
Yeah, I like to think I've got a good handle on these kinds of stories, but this one really surprised me.
Yeah, I bet. We're talking about Trump International Golf Course, right, in West Palm Beach.
Right.
And at first, it just seemed like these little snippets of information, like Secret Service, a possible gun, people speeding away. But then it's like, hold on, this is the real deal?
Totally. And the thing is, this wasn't just some random event. This had much bigger implications, about security and the media and just the whole political mood these days.
Okay, so before we get into all of that, let's rewind a bit.
Yeah, good idea.
Because even figuring out exactly what happened is a bit of a puzzle.
It really is.
So, imagine this. A sunny Sunday. Trump's out on his golf course. Totally normal, right? And the Secret Service is there, obviously, but we're not totally sure how close they were to him at that exact moment.
Which, honestly, is pretty standard, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they want to give him some breathing room.
Right, you don't want them on top of him all the time.
Exactly. They try to keep it low-key.
Yeah.
Until something happens. And then, well...
And then all hell breaks loose. Suddenly, we hear reports about a potential firearm, and the whole situation explodes.
I was looking at the initial reports from the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office, and it was almost funny how careful their wording was.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they said shooting incident, but they only said it was on the grounds.
Oh.
Like, they didn't even want to say if it was on the golf course itself.
Wow.
Yeah, like they were figuring things out as they went along.
Well, yeah, I can't imagine the pressure they were under. I mean, this wasn't just some random news story. This was about a former president.
Oh, totally. And you've got potential safety concerns. Everyone's watching. Talk about a high-pressure situation.
No kidding. And it gets even crazier. There are witnesses describing, like, black SUVs, sirens, police cars flying towards the scene. It's like a movie or something.
And then the suspect just takes off in an SUV. They led police on a chase across several counties. They even closed part of I-95. Can you believe that?
Seriously, it's like something out of Cops or something, but with way higher stakes, obviously.
For sure.
I mean, at this point, it's clear this isn't just a fight on a golf course anymore. This is a serious thing with a former president potentially at risk. And that's the thing, right? It's a former president, which makes it even more complicated.
Right. It's not just about what's happening right then, but also about how long does protection last after they leave office?
Yeah.
How much protection?
Yeah, exactly.
And, the Secret Service has to be thinking about all of that, especially with everything that's happened lately.
For sure.
I mean, think about it. This was only 2 months after that attempt on Trump's life at that rally in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
You can't separate this golf course thing from that.
Absolutely not. It's like this whole thing just forced everyone to face the very real possibility that something even worse could have happened.
Right, exactly. And suddenly the stakes were even higher for everyone.
Yeah.
You've got the former president's safety, the
Yeah.
Secret Service's reputation, and the public's just sitting there like, what the hell is going on?
Totally. So, okay, back to that Sunday on the golf course. We've got all this crazy stuff happening, a suspect on the run, and I'm sure everyone's wondering, is Trump okay?
That was the big question, right?
All right.
And thankfully, we found out pretty quickly that he was fine. His team confirmed it. The Secret Service confirmed it. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief.
Definitely.
But then came the next wave of questions. How did this happen with the Secret Service right there? Was Trump even the target? And why? Why would anyone do this?
It's like those first reports, wild as they were just the beginning.
Totally. And slowly but surely, more details started coming out. Law enforcement actually admitted that Secret Service agents fired their weapons during the incident.
Wait, they actually shot at someone?
Yeah. Apparently, they saw someone near the golf course who looked like they had a gun. And they took action. It turned out to be some kind of AK-style firearm, which they found later. Now, whether the suspect fired back or even aimed at the agents, that's still not clear.
Okay, but still, an AK-47. That's not your average golfer's disagreement. This wasn't just like a precaution. This was the Secret Service reacting to a serious and immediate threat.
Exactly. And we got to remember, these agents, they're the best of the best.
Right. They're not messing around.
They know how to assess a threat, and they clearly thought they needed to act fast.
Which, I mean, I get it, right? You can't take chances when you're protecting a former president, especially one who's been targeted before.
No, absolutely not.
But still, I can only imagine the stress those agents were under in that moment. I bet that's going to be talked about for a long time.
Oh, for sure. Every little detail is going to be analyzed. And you know what's interesting?
What?
This whole thing just shows how much security threats have changed. It's not just about protecting someone from getting attacked physically anymore. It's about this whole web of things like social media, online extremism, even misinformation.
That's a good point. It's like the whole security game has changed, and even the pros are struggling to keep up. So, what about the suspect? What do we know about them? So, this guy is leading them on a chase all over the place. Did he eventually give up?
Well, after a while, and I'm sure this had everyone glued to their TVs, right?
Yeah.
The Martin County Sheriff's Office finally caught up with him.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and it sounds like they had to get a little rough with him, but from what we know, nobody got hurt, thankfully.
Yeah. That's good to hear. So, the suspect's in custody, no injuries. And most importantly, the former president is safe. But even though it didn't turn into a bigger tragedy, this whole thing must have sent shockwaves through, the political world.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the reactions were instant. The White House released a statement right away saying Biden and Harris were aware of the situation and very relieved that Trump was okay.
I bet.
Even Kamala Harris went on Twitter saying how thankful she was that he was safe and how violence has no place in America and all that.
It's interesting how even with all the political fighting, everyone seems to agree that you just don't mess with a former president.
Yeah, for sure. There are some lines you just don't cross. And it wasn't just the current administration that reacted. Lindsey Graham, who, let's be honest, is about as close to Trump as you can get.
Yeah.
He went public saying he talked to Trump and that Trump was doing well and was more determined than ever to save our country.
Wow, more determined than ever. You can practically see the campaign ads being written right now.
Right? But seriously, this whole thing has to have people talking about security, especially since this wasn't the first time someone went after Trump.
Exactly.
The FBI is involved now, which makes sense given who we're talking about. They'll want to know everything, the suspect's history, what they were thinking, any online activity, everything.
Right.
The big question is, was this a planned attack on Trump, or was it just a random thing that happened to involve him?
That's a huge difference.
Right. It changes everything. If it was planned, that's a whole different level of scary.
Exactly. It makes you think about how safe anyone really is, even with protection. So what happens now?
Well, the investigation will play out, and we'll learn more, hopefully. But I think this whole thing really makes you think, doesn't it? About how much security is enough, and at what point does all this security start to mess with our freedom? These are big questions, and honestly, there are no easy answers.
No, I guess not.
But that's what makes a deep dive like this so important. It's not just about what happened on that golf course. It's about what this whole thing says about the world we live in now. A world where everyone wants safety, but also wants freedom,
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like we're trying to find this balance, but it's not easy.
Exactly. And, it'd be easy to just focus on the headlines and move on. But this is about looking deeper, connecting the dots, and really thinking about what it all means.
I like that. So if our listeners take away one thing from this, it's that things aren't always what they seem, and that sometimes the most important stories are the ones hiding beneath the surface.
100%. Yeah.
Well said. And on that note, we're out of time. Until next time, folks, keep asking questions and keep digging deep.